Good morning, everyone. Welcome to my very first video class. We're starting with the beginners class, series 1. We're going to be teaching you the basics of stamping. I picked this beautiful Be Thankful stamp set from Stampin' Up. It's number 146765, and you can order that on my website, sealed with a stamp. This is what the card is going to come out with. It's going to be an easy card. We're going to use one piece of 8.5 by 11 cardstock. Today I'm using the thick cardstock because it's going to hold up better. When you open it, it's not going to feel flimsy. We're going to stamp this sentiment using the Memento Tuxedo Black stamp set. The nice thing about this is it's permanent and your colors won't run into each other. We're also going to use a ribbon. This was from a different die lot. It's Bermuda Bay, but today instead I'm going to be using Daffodil Delight ribbon. It's the ribbon seam binding 1/2 inch. The other things I'm going to be using are my blends. I'm going to use light Call Me Clover for the color of the leaves, and the letters I'm going to color them in Dark Poppy Parade, Dark Purple Posy, Dark Seaside Spray, and the little bumblebee, I'm going to color him in Dark Daffodil Delight. Now, blends are alcohol markers, so they're going to work perfectly with our Memento fade resistant, run resistant die. You don't want to use a water-based ink with this die because that will run. The next thing you're going to need is a stamping block. This is number I, which is a long rectangular, and the stamp from Be Thankful is pretty large, and it's going to fit nicely on that block. Actually, I think I need a bigger block. So let me pull out my bigger block. Here it is. It's the F block. I won't have any hangover, and it's going to fit nicely on my stamp. So Stampin' Up! Recently improved their stamp sets where this top image is a little bit tackier now, so it sticks perfectly to your blocks. This is an older stamp, so it does have a tendency to fall off. Therefore, I'm going to put a little bit of tape runner or adhesive on it, which I can't get to right now, but let me just use some of this to help my stamp stick to my block. Normally on these kind of stamps I use my tape runner and I just run a little strip, and I can easily peel it off to clean my stamps and my blocks. So there we go. That'll work too. I'm going to attach it to my block, and it's going to be ready to stamp with my ink. But first we need to take our trimming tool here from Stampin' Up. It's our newest, greatest model. We're going to take the 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and we're going to place it into the machine. And half of 8.5 is 4 1/4. So we're going to line this up at the 4 1/4 line. Now there are two blades. The first blade is a cutting blade. It's the darker gray, and the other blade is a lighter gray. It is an embossing blade. So I'm going to run that up and down, and I'm going to get an embossed line, and that's going to be our fold line for our card. Then I'm going to turn it, and half of 11 is 5 1/2. So I'm going to line it up at the 5 1/2. I'm going to close my, I guess it's my cutting blade, and I'm going to run the cutter down. And now I have two pieces ready for 2 cards. I'm going to take my fold line and fold it in half. I have my burnishing tool here handy. It's a bone folder. Well, I normally have it handy. See if I could find it. There we go. I'm going to move my cutting tool, and I'm going to use my bone folder to make that a nice crisp edge. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my ink pad, and since it's a big stamp, I'm going to put it down and take my stamp pad and stamp it generously a few times. Take a look at it to make sure you don't have any strings or lint, and make sure that your ink is covering every part of the image completely. Next thing I'm going to do is place the front of my card in front of me and line up my image. Hopefully I get this nice and straight in the center. And I apply even pressure, not too hard. I don't want to squash my stamp so that it spreads out and smears. I want to hold it there for maybe 5 seconds and lift straight up. Well, as you see, I did exactly what I told you not to do. Don't smear it, but you know what? That's okay. That's the beauty of television. We're just going to carry on. I'm going to close up my ink because forever I will be getting that on my hands and make a mess even further. This is pretty instantly dried. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to color in my little bumblebee. Now, if any of you like to color, this is pretty soothing. I enjoy it. Sometimes you put on a little music. Depending on what it is, it could be soothing. Sometimes, if it's hard rock or rap, it doesn't help me. Okay, got my little bunny, or my little bee. Now you can line up your colors and decide which order you want them in. I think that looks pretty. Actually, this is going to be my leaves. I'll leave that out. I think I'll do it like that. So my first letter is the T. I'm going to color it in. And this is about all you need to do. These blends are beautiful, and the cool thing about them is they come with 2 edges. Now see, this is the paintbrush edge tip, and this is the pointed edge. So I am going to try to get into the detailed parts with my fine tip and use the paintbrush edge for the bigger areas. Next color, I'm just going to color it in. I should be using my fine tip here, but I'm not. There's nothing right or wrong about when you do this. It's just about having fun. And I hope you're all gonna enjoy making this card. I thought it's been the cutest card. I wanted to make it forever, and I never had a chance, and now I'm so excited. All right, second color down, and third color, I'm going to go with this here, Purple Posy, which is one of those colors which I really haven't used a lot. They had a problem with the ink pads, and it's one of the in colors this year, and unfortunately they had problems with it being able to keep its color. I think that the blends is fine, but the ink pads they have pulled from being able to order them. Okay, I'm going again with my Seaside Spray. Not sure if I like this color combination. I think that's one of the hardest things about making your cards is knowing what color combinations to use. And personally, I found it easiest if I have something that I can pull the colors from, like maybe some of our designer series paper. I use the same colors that they use in the paper, and it automatically matches. It's kind of the beauty of Stampin' Up. All of their inks coordinate with all of their papers, coordinate with all of their designer series papers, which are the patterns, and then it finally also coordinates with all of your inks and your embellishments and just about everything. So when you finish, your cards are beautiful. and it all looks like it matches. I started this years and years and years ago, and at the time, probably actually, no, Stampin' Up! Was started, but I didn't know about them. I lived in Colorado at the time. So I would make my own cards, and oh my goodness, the colors did not always match, and it was pretty hard to figure out what colors you wanted to buy because you never knew what was going to match. Okay, quick and dirty, but you'll get the idea. That's all I had to do. I guess I should show you something about these blends. Is what's cool about them is you can always layer upon layer of ink once you've done it, and you can make them darker wherever you want. Say you want to feel like there's a light shining somewhere, you can highlight one area. This isn't really going to show it that well. Some other images are easier to show, and probably because I'm using the light or the dark version of all of these, that's why it's not showing. What these blends have is a light and a dark color. So for dark Seaside Spray, there's a light Seaside Spray. And I always start with my light colors, but because we were really just coloring these in, I didn't do that. I wanted a bolder color on this card. So I usually start with my light colors, and then I add to them. So here's this ribbon, which it's fairly lightweight, so it's easy to make a bow. Some of you have troubles making bows. Sometimes I do, sometimes I fight with them, and sometimes they go pretty easy. Let's see how this one turns out. There we go. Not too bad. Better than expected. All right, I'm just gonna tighten up my bow a little bit here. All right. Yep. Get that end a little bit shorter. Okay, now nowhere near is this an expert, but I think it's going to get you stamping. If you've never stamped before, this is a cute stamp. It's not a lot of expense. You probably always have a thank you card to write. I think I like the colors in this one better, but you know what? It's up to you. It's whatever you want to do. So have fun with it. Thanks for visiting me, and I hope you stay tuned to my next card class.